Hello my ghouls and goblins and welcome back to The Fog. I'm Taylor, your casual crypt keeper, and I got something for you today. H.P. Lovecraft was the master of cosmic horror. Well, I'd hope. He kind of invented the genre. I'd hope he'd be halfway decent at it. And though he may have crafted it lovingly, he hasn't written much in a few decades on account of being dead, so he's left behind a legacy and new generations of storytellers to pick up where he left off. So today we're going to be taking a look at a random selection of some of the best cosmic horror stories so terrifying, even old HP himself would find them spine-chilling. Let me know down below if you've got a favorite cosmic horror story that I missed on this list. Now let's dive on in. Number 5, Dead Space. Dead Space is one of my favorite video games ever released, and it was one of my favorite video games ever released again when they put it out again in 2023 with some new paint on it. Dead Space is about as cosmic horror as it can get, and it's not just because it's set in space, although, that is a really big contributor because the monsters came from space. In a far future, humanity has taken to the stars mostly to strip mine planets for their natural resources by cracking them open like a walnut. Scary thing is I can really see us doing this. On a routine mining operation, the planet cracker USG Ishimura discovers something buried inside the planet, an alien relic called the Marker, a giant evil-looking obelisk covered in alien hieroglyphs, which you would think you would know well enough. Maybe we should just leave that where it is and not bring that home, but no one on board the ship had ever seen a horror movie, I guess. Unsurprisingly, it does not go terribly well, and within about 20 minutes after bringing the Marker on board, everyone on the Ishimura is removing their eyes and writing cryptic messages with their body fluids and having vivid hallucinations of their dead loved ones, and also some horrific ancient evil sealed away as giving life to disembodied flesh and trying to swallow everyone into one big meat mass. It's bad is what I'm trying to get across. It's very bad things happening up in space. I don't even know how much we can show on this one and keep that PG rating. As the series progresses, we learn that this evil has been going on for a long time, way before us, and it's swallowed countless planets and civilizations, and humanity is really just another blip on the radar. Their ultimate goal is to converge all biological life on a target planet into this big, horrific creature called a Brethren Moon, this big, planet-sized legion of flesh that eats other planets. Dead Space makes you feel absolutely helpless, alone, and just completely insignificant. By the end of the first one, you've seen literally every single character die, and you are the only survivor of the first one. You're just one engineer hopelessly trying to survive against a primordial species of pure evil. And as the series was coming to a horrific, exciting conclusion, the series did get cancelled on a cliffhanger by EA, which is the most cosmic horror thing I can think of. And as always, if you're looking for more horror content, be it scary stories, true stories, fake stories, alien sightings, cryptids, monsters, conspiracies, really big sharks, Top 5 Scary has a little bit of everything and then some on top of that. So slap that bell for me, subscribe, and don't miss a single scare. But keep watching this video, okay? If you don't mind, I worked hard on it. Alright, moving on. Number 4, Event Horizon. Event Horizon is one of my favorite underrated horror movies and is also one of the major inspirations for Dead Space, which is probably why I like it so much. I think just something scary happening on a spaceship is the coolest setting imaginable for a work of horror fiction. Scary things don't happen in space, and if you'd screamed, who would even hear it? Event Horizon is the name of the movie and also the titular spaceship, which went missing in deep space years prior to the film's start and has just reappeared. That's normal, spaceships do that all the time. A recovery crew is sent out to the Event Horizon to try and figure out just what happened and learn pretty quickly that things went to hell, in the most literal sense of that term. It turns out that the Event Horizon was testing out a new kind of warp technology that allows for faster than light travel, and somebody crossed a wrong wire, didn't check their calibrations, and they accidentally got sent through hell. Hate when that happens. You really gotta be careful with the warp. Just ask the Imperium. That's one for my Warhammer fans out there, all two of you. Event Horizon is that kind of cosmic horror where the enemy is just something invisible and undefeatable and infinitely larger than ourselves. It's not so much that there's a demon or a devil that's bothering people, just this incomprehensible power beyond our paltry human understanding that drives you to jabbering madness, the kind that makes you tear your eyes out and bump uglies like a Hieronymus Bosch painting. If you've never seen Event Horizon, genuinely cannot recommend it enough. I always felt like it should have been a way bigger deal than it was. I feel like there's room for some sequels or something. It's got some fantastic performances from Lawrence Fishburne and Sam Neill, and maybe has one of the genuinely scariest scenes in a horror movie ever. If If you've seen the movie, the security footage of what happened to the original crew of the Event Horizon is forever burned in the parts of my brain that I talk to my therapist about. Number 3, Annihilation. Now, I've talked about Annihilation on the channel more than a few times because I am a massive fan of the movie. And I'm putting it here because while it's definitely more famous as a movie, and that's what I know it as best, it was also a book, and I was worried if I didn't have at least one book on here, you would think I'm illiterate. I am, but that's a different issue. I honestly don't read enough, so if you have a great cosmic horror book that isn't by old hodgepodge Lovecraft, shout it out down below so I can stop shaking whenever I get asked to talk about a medium that isn't video games or movies. Anyway, back to the original topic. Annihilation is a fantastic cosmic horror story that makes you feel pitifully small, completely confused, and maybe a tiny bit better about yourself. A biologist, Lena, gets a bit of a surprise when her thought-to-be-dead husband returns home but comes back different. Wrong, as if he's not really the same guy anymore. It's not long until she finds herself following in her husband's footsteps, swept up in a giant government conspiracy, investigating what he was looking into, a quarantined area of the swamps of Florida that have been affected by some alien presence called the Shimmer that is warping everything and merging all biological life together into this horrific cosmic gumbo, making everyone into these scary amalgamations of different creatures and plants. And I know for a fact I have shrieked in a previous video at length about how much I love the Annihilation bear, which is an absolute showstopper of horrifying creature design. Throw up a picture of the Annihilation bear, would you kindly? Oh, love that thing. Annihilation is the kind of story that really worms its way into your brain, has you questioning just about everything, and then asking if you can't tell the difference, does any of it really matter? It's a nice one to get you thinking about all these big questions like, why are humans the way they are? Why are people in love hurt each other? Why do humans have such self-destructive tendencies? And what would happen if a bear got merged with a crocodile and a human, and how yucky would that look? You know, all the really big philosophical questions. If you still haven't seen the movie, I'm not going to stop mentioning it in these videos until you do. Even you. Number 2, The Void. The Void is everything I am looking for in a movie, and I know that my tastes aren't always the same as you guys. The Void is wet, it's sticky, it's gross, and it's a low-budget horror movie about a troubled cop with personal issues. That ticks all my boxes. When a small-town deputy notices a wounded man crawling in the road, he takes him out to a local hospital run by a weary overnight staff with limited resources, including his ex-wife he's got a bit of a tense relationship with. Definitely already a long night. Things are seeming weird, what with the legions of cryptic cloaked cultists surrounding the hospital, preventing them from leaving. He starts to have a hunch that maybe something's up, especially when everyone around him starts to mutate into these horrific flesh beasts that would make David Cronenberg blush. It becomes very clear, very fast, that whoever these cultists are, they've found a gateway to another world and are quite intent on inviting their horrific slimy friends from the other side over. The Void really captures that feeling of just being totally out of your element. No one has any idea what's going on the entire time, neither do you. They're just scared and in way over their head. You know, you're not dealing with like some special forces, highly trained soldiers, or a secret government agency that's been tracking this cult and these gods for years or anything. Just a very tired deputy and an overworked hospital staff trying to deal with madness overtaking everyone, and most of their patients mutating into disgusting tentacle beasts. If you're a fan of monster movies with practical effects, The Void does not disappoint at all. Takes a lot of cues from John Carpenter's legendary horror movie The Thing, with the monsters looking a lot like The Thing. The whole movie kind of actually has this like faux 80s movie vibe. Like it's the kind of thing you'd pull out of a blockbuster that was forgotten about. Definitely seems like John Carpenter would have worked on it. The Void gets a massive recommend from me for horror movie fans, for cosmic horror fans, and for people who just really want to support low budget independent Canadian cinema. I know that's most of you out there. And finally, coming in at number 1, Uzumaki. We don't talk about horror manga on this channel nearly enough. It's an entire medium out there of fantastic storytelling and art that will drive you bonkers. If you're a fan of horror manga at all, like even a little bit, then you know there's pretty much no one who does it better than Junji Ito, who's kind of like the Stephen King of horror manga, cranking out banger after banger, all as memorable and macabre as you could possibly hope. Ito's works vary in content, but most of them are usually about something absolutely disgustingly horrible happening to your body, and Uzumaki is no exception, and probably one of the most famous examples of his work. A lot of fans consider Uzumaki to be be his magnum opus. Not me, I'm a Tomy guy all the way. Uzumaki tells the story of a Japanese town that has fallen to some incredibly bizarre curse affecting everything, spiraling inwards. Everything. It starts small, you know, people's hair starts to curl and then starts to move onto people's flesh. You might have seen, like, there's a very famous image from this manga of like a girl whose face is all spiraled inwards, and then the town's geography, everything starts to spiral. Our protagonists leave this cursed town, return later, discover that it's been years since they left, since the spiral curse is affecting the flow of time as well. Really, nothing is going right whatsoever. Eventually, they discover that this curse has been going on for a long time and is the product of an ancient evil, infinitely bigger than themselves and seemingly unstoppable. If you've never read any of Junji Ito's works at all, I cannot recommend him enough, even if you're not a big fan of manga traditionally. His stuff isn't really like most manga out there. There's no superheroes or epic powers or, you know, big spiky haircuts and cat girls. Mostly just like horrific body horror and very creative little stories. A lot of his works have been adapted. Netflix recently just worked on an animated series based on some of his stories. I haven't had time to check it out yet, but passing that on to you if you're interested. And that's about all she wrote, my ghouls and goblins. Thanks so much for listening to me. Creep on creeping on, and I'll see you in the next one, as long as some force from beyond our realm hasn't got me.